world with it kind of be a segue of what's happening in to the Druze as well in Syria.
Yeah. Well, we had a load of other stuff.
Yeah, but
we had a load of other stuff, but we'll get to that, I guess. No, not there. There. All right. So you're saying this one, ultra-Orthodox Jews are quitting. An ultra-Orthodox party is quitting Netanyahu's government because of conscription.
All right, for our listeners, things get kind of confusing in the world, and right now Israel is at the very controversial situation. They, of course, are conducting a heinous war of genocide, or as some people call it, genocide. I kind of really refer to it that myself, but you can have a different opinion on that. But they, whatever your opinion is, there's lots of atrocities going on there. But in any case, what is the source of a lot of that? And in Israel, they're having, when we think of Israel, we think of it just as a kind of a place where Jews live. But that's not exactly a good definition of it, because Israel is quite mixed up. Originally, when Israel was created, it was created by Ashkenazi Jews, European Jews, very sophisticated, well-educated Jews from Europe that knew they were never going to get treated well in Europe, so they had to hightail it to Israel. That, of course, was problematic because they had to push all the people that lived in the place in Israel out so they could take over. And among those people that settled in Israel were ultra-Orthodox Jews. And from the very beginning, their numbers were very small. So they were given a pass on military service. One of the things essential to Israel is this military service. Everybody, man or woman, goes into the military service for, I think, 30 months. But a sect of the population was exempt from this, and this was the ultra-Orthodox Jews. The ultra-Orthodox Jews do not want to serve in the army or the military. However, there are huge manpower shortages in the military.
Well, they've been at war. They've been at war for quite some time. Irrespective, let's not make any statements about about how the military has been used or anything like that in this regard, right? But they have been. The military have been in action for quite some time.
Yeah, quite a bit, and Israel is always going to need manpower for its military because of its tenuous situation there.
Yeah.
But the ultra-Orthodox Jews that started off as a very small minority, and David Ben-Gurion, I believe it was Ben-Gurion, who was the founder of Israel, allowed this small Orthodox group, very Orthodox Jews, to spend their time studying and be exempt from military. So a very, very important part of Judaism is the study of religious texts. It is extremely important. As a matter of fact, when the temple was back in 62 AD or wherever it was, when the temple was destroyed in Jerusalem, from that point on, rabbinical Judaism took over. In other words, the authority of Judaism went into the hands of individual rabbis. And it's very, very important that they study and contemplate the Holy Scriptures. That is essential to the Jewish fabric. That book, I think the Jewish British historian Shamara, I can't remember his name though. Shoot. Anyway, he has said, even though they didn't have a country, they had the book, they had the teachings. That was essential to the character of Judaism. That was the fiber of Jewish structure. But now, this group that spends a huge amount of its time studying different aspects of Jewish religion and law and all that is being forced into serving in the army, and they don't want to do that. they feel that that is contrary to Judaism, that it's essential that they stay as yeshiva. I don't know my which means a studier of the faith and religion, and that's much more important than having land or a country or to defend it.
Plus, many of these Orthodox Jews have remained in Israel. Remained in Israel for thousands of years anyway.
No, not really. There's been a tiny, up until 1897, there's been a very small
number of them. Yeah, not a large number, more than maybe a few dozen. That's it. Yeah,
there's always been a Jewish presence in what is now Israel, but it's also always been other presences there as well. So
of course, yeah,
it's like we heard stories of the Good Samaritan, anyway. So to get to the foundation, I just had to give you that background because the ultra-Orthodox population has grown immensely. It makes up about 13% of Israeli society right now. And they have two parties in the Knesset. One of those parties is pulling the pin on Netanyahu. He needs their support. Netanyahu has a tiny minority in the Knesset. This ultra-Orthodox party, which has 7 seats or something, are pulling out. They're not going to, in this particular article, they're no longer going to support Netanyahu, which brings his majority to 61 seats in a Knesset of 120. This is a big blow to Netanyahu. And there's another Orthodox party that will probably withdraw from the government as well. If that happens, then Netanyahu can no longer control Israel.
Yeah.
Now, Netanyahu is a master politician. He is super controlling. He's been the face of Israel for many decades. He's an insanely good politician and able to bridge the gap between different ideologies. And in this particular case, he's had to wed himself with ultra-Orthodox, and he's also had to wed his party with extremist settlers movements, who are more like fascists than anything. And yet he's doing it, and he's controlling the government. But this could be the straw that broke the camel's back, because if any more of the parties pull out of the coalition, then he'll have to have an election, or he'll have to give up power.
Yeah.
I haven't given up on Netanyahu. So, I don't like the guy. I think he's a war criminal, but I do think he's a master politician. He's a Mussolini or a Hitler or something like that. He can really bring people together. And look, he lied to he told the American Senate and Congress that if the United States took out Iraq, there would be peace and prosperity throughout the region. And of course, that didn't happen. He's extremely persuasive. You can see what he did with Biden. He pulled him around by the nose with a ring.
Oh, yeah. And
this Orthodox thing is very, very important because they make up now 13% of the population. And when their exemption for the military service was given way back when, they were a tiny minority, but their fertility rates are very, very high. Orthodox and ultra-Orthodox Jews have a very high fertility rate. Lots of kids are born. And this is, as a matter of fact, I once read an article where a regular secular Jew in Israel says, "Oh, one day they're going to push us into the sea." And he didn't mean the Palestinians or the Arabs. He meant the ultra-Orthodox Jews. because of their exploding population.
Yeah.
So I wanted to explain that to give you kind of insights into Israel, because we sometimes have this one-dimensional look. Israel, boom, a Jewish state. Palestinians, boom, an Arab state. There's that one-dimensional look at everything takes away the humanity.
I don't think that is. I think that's part of the problem, is that the current leaders are looking at it as too much of one-dimensional. You know, Israel must be Israel. And there's failure to recognize that there are multiple sets of people in this area.
Yeah. For instance, a little later on, we'll talk about the Druze, which is another interesting. It's very hard for us to keep up because they don't teach us this in school, and they should. They should really get out there and like when you talk about Israel, think of a Jewish state. That's it, a Zionist state. But there's a lot more to it. There's the ultra-Orthodox. There's a group of Jews in Israel that believe they should not have a state, and that Zionism is antithetical to Judaism. That Judaism and Zionism do not meet. There are different aspects of Judaism and different people from around the world. The original Jewish state was supposed to be run by Ashkenazi Jews, but when Jews from the rest of the world started coming there, there developed a class system where the Ashkenazis were on the top, the Sephardic somewhere underneath there, this Mizratim under them, and so there was a lot of class cultures problematic there, especially when the Mizrata Jews look more Arab than Arab. So, and of course the Moroccan Israelis or Moroccan Jews. So, just to give you an idea of the sort of demographics of Israel, is not straightforward. It's just not a bunch of Ashkenazi Jews. It's very diverse, and they have difficulties within their religion and society, and so that's why I brought up the ultra-Orthodox. Tried to explain it a little bit, because that is one of the things that is going forces within Israel that may determine what happens next. If they cannot get the support of these ultra-Orthodox parties, they may not be able to govern.
All right, let's move on to some local things. Okay. Yeah. All right. So Hellboy star Ron Perlman, it says Niagara Falls fireworks are hell for animals, and he's questioning why the hell they run every single day.
Yeah, Hellboy asks why the hell are they run every night. Well, this is a tradition that goes back, and most
and
of
noticed, of course, the use of the repetitive use of hell there, right?
Yes, I felt it. Yeah, but here, this guy's sort of. First, I read it. And I says, "Why don't you mind your own business?" Just one more Hollywood dude trying to tell us what to do. There's like I had instant resentment. Yeah, mind your own business. Get the hell out. Then I read it a little more carefully, and I said, "Okay, he's got a good point," but he's saying that this is this affects animals, wild and domestic, and it is a severe sort of trauma to them. And dogs, people's dogs yelp like crazy. I was lucky. I had 2 dogs. They weren't bothered by the fireworks at all.
When I lived down here. I think the thing is that if you're living in that area that's Murray Street, and kind of the radius, I guess, a mile and a half from that area. Yeah, I think you're probably in it. Our cats never even flinched. They look at the fireworks, never even flinch, right?
Yeah. So I lived on Ontario Avenue, and we're just it was a 10-minute walk away from the fireworks. So our cats and dogs grew up with that going on all the time.
Yeah.
And they didn't bother them one bit.
Yeah.
Now, the thing I have with Perlman is, though, this is something that happens to these animals every time there's a lightning and thunderstorm.
True.
So the same sort of thing.
Most animals, okay, there are some humans that are particularly sensitive to thunderstorms. I used to know this. I used to know this woman that I worked with, and she came in one morning looking hellish, and I said, "What's going on?" And she said, "Oh, I couldn't sleep all last night because of the thunderstorms." And yeah, there were thunderstorms. I went to bed when there was a big thunderclap, and just slept through the whole lot. But she couldn't.
I've known people that are terrified of storms.
Yeah,
go in the basement.
Absolutely.
They're terrified.
Oh, I know. And she was up all night walking around the house, and she still came into work, but she looked like hell.
But getting back to animals, and Perlman here is saying that this is unnecessary cruelty to the animals, both wild and domestic. It's because of the organization that he is that he belongs to. Do you want to tell us what that is?
Actually, I didn't look that up. What's it? PETA? Yeah. No, I don't know. I don't know what his organization is. Sorry, I'm not as well read on this. Didn't catch his organization.
PETA. Yeah. The thing is called PETA.
Yeah.
Okay, and so PETA.
I don't know what that means. I don't know what PETA means.
People for the ethical treatment of animals.
Ah, there you go. I'm on their page and don't even know what that means. Yeah. Okay.
So
the ethical treatment of animals. Yep, got you. Thank you. Duh.
So he basically says fireworks every night. Seriously, he said in a 30-second clip. Months of trauma for animals. Come on, Niagara Falls, you can do better. The problem is this has been going on for many, many years, and most of the complaints about fireworks started happening after COVID, because we didn't have fireworks during that part of the time. I think probably when they started again, the animals in and around the area were, particularly domestic animals, were not used to it, and they became excessively frightened. Like I said before, I had animals there that never were bothered 1 second by any of that, and I was very close to the fireworks. They're very loud, very bright where I live. And
so Mike is saying, come on. He says it properly, get it right, Niagara Falls. And he also says, I live on Drummond Road near McLeod, and the neighbor's dog hides and shakes with every fireworks. Yeah, I would have thought you would further less. You get the sound less, but okay, fair enough. One thing that is always overlooked is the heavy metals that are in fireworks. Yeah, but those the heavy metals and the noise are two different things as well, of course. I accept that it's a poison that happens, and I accept that is true, and that's one of the reasons alone for banning of fireworks. But the noise is separate and more immediate, isn't it?
Yes, and Mike has a very good point there. Now, basically, what it's saying is we should stop the fireworks. And even though I love the fireworks, I have to agree with it. The fireworks are amazing. As I was saying just earlier, the problem happened after COVID. When prior to COVID, there was some complaints about fireworks, but not that much.
Yeah.
When there was a break in fireworks, then they started again. I think that's when all the new puppies and all that became very, very frightened of this, because they weren't used to it. If they hear it every night when they're little puppies onwards, they're acclimatized to it. Like my pets never bothered with it at all.
Yeah.
Like my cats and my dogs never and I was very close to
actually
fireworks. I was 10 minutes away. They couldn't have been any louder. However,
have a cat
to follow that up is Perlman and Mike have very good points here. That do we really need that right now? Can we do better? Can we change out with drone? I think
Perlman makes the point. Perlman makes the point exactly what Mike says. Pyrotechnics release toxins including lead, carbon monoxide, aluminium, and sulfur, which increase the amount of pollutants in the air by up to 42%. And again, you sniff those in when there's fireworks, because actually part of the firework display is also that kind of ambient smell of the fireworks, right? Which is
despite the fact that we've this has been a tradition and it's very, very popular among tourists. It takes a while for this to sort of set in. Look how long it took for Marineland to sort of get its act together. It was a very popular thing, and people have to be educated on it. And once people understand that it really doesn't make much sense to go ahead with that, you're putting chemicals into the air, pollution, and you're traumatizing animals.
I know what
we used to have before we had everyday fireworks in there. We had peregrine falcons nesting in the gorge. Yeah, and I kind of thought to myself, when they start fireworks every night, I don't think the peregrine falcons are going to last, and they didn't.
Yeah, exactly. So the once a week they were okay with, but every night they couldn't stand it. Yeah. And what also,
like you could compare it to thunderstorms and all that. Really loud and raucous thunderstorms happen occasionally, and I think every animal can withstand that kind of trauma once in a while. But the one every night, even though I love them, I have to say, all right, time for something else.
Yeah, and Mike makes the point of the pollutants is what causes the colors in the fireworks, of course. Yeah, we knew. Well, I knew that. But yeah, it's a good point, Mike.
Yeah, green would have something to do with copper. Reds would be having something to do with iron. Other combinations. It's usually metals, as he's right.
And again, we're likely. I think that it's time to replace them by a drone show.
Well, yeah, that's the suggestion. However, when the tourist board looks and takes opinions of tourists and how much they love the fireworks, then they might have a different opinion. That might be that is a big draw down here. That fireworks display. That's what brings tourists here. They know that.
Yeah.
That's why they have it every night. When they had it every week, everybody loved it so much they figured we have it every night. Now, my big issue here is we have a fireworks display every night at 10 o'clock down here, but we have a crappy. We don't even have a fireworks display on Canada Day. It's a little like nobody goes ahead and has a big, huge fireworks display to celebrate the country. We have it every night for the tourists, but we don't have one for ourselves.
Yeah. All right. Okay. And what basically is saying, Mike is saying drones and lasers. Yes, 100%. That's exactly where I am. I've seen some laser shows. Never seen a drone show, but I've heard good things about drone shows. Laser shows are fantastic. Especially since you could actually, what you can do is you can put the points up around the area, pre-make these kind of target zones on the walls, on the cliffs and things like that would actually allow the lasers to hit and spread out and give, become dramatic. All right. Yeah.
Yeah. You could have a kind of a Star Wars thing going on up there.
Yeah. Exactly. And it all comes because you've got shooting points that you shoot the lasers at. And these only need to be like 6-inch plates or something like that.
I don't know, but that's going to be expensive. And they did have the drone show. I went down to the Niagara Parks the night they had the drone show. I remember they had it canceled the first night.
Yeah.
And they rescheduled it. It was quite amazing. The problem is you have things flying around and they fall out of the sky. Fireworks go up and blow up, and by the time they get to the ground, they're all, they're cooled off or whatever, and you can shoot them over. But if you have drones going, you're going to have to put them in some place if they do fall out of the sky, they're not going to hurt anybody.
Well, they shouldn't fall out of the sky because these things are pretty damn reliable. There's drones.
Come on, it's a mechanical device, and anything can happen.
Yeah. Anyway.
All right. It's just like,
okay.
Seriously. Like,
okay. Let's move on. There's a 40-area animal sanctuary that is receiving a major donation match now. So that is basically they're looking after wild animals, and they're playing a vital role also for pets and for animals that are being basically being found that in need of treatment. So First On-Site Property Restoration has announced that it will match public donations to the sanctuary for up to $10,000.
Where are you?
This is the Fort Erie animal sanction to receive major donation match.
When did we put it up?
It was up for yesterday.
Okay, I'll look for it.
Yeah.
Well, there's I think maybe we could make an announcement right here.
Well, this was just a minor thing anyway, a few things to talk about and just go on. So it's good that if you are actually donating to the Fort Erie Animal Sanctuary, then be aware that there's actually donation matches. So now might be a good time to donate. All right. That's all I really wanted to say with that. It's not really, this isn't one of these sort of things we talk about for a long time anyway. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. It's kind of a public service. I just found it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I somehow missed it before. Oh,
okay.
No, I read it a couple of days ago. This Happy Days Sanctuary founded in the aftermath of the Fort McMurray wildfires has become a refuge for animals displaced from wildfires. Okay, yeah. So that was it's 14 hectares in Stephenville. So if you want to give money, go ahead. Looks like it's anyway. Sorry, I don't know much about it, so you'll have to tell them.
Well, no, yeah, I just did. I just really did. That was it while you were waiting. So, and basically, First Ontario Property Restoration has announced that it will match donations to the sanctuary up to $10,000. So good for them.
All right. While we're at giving announcements, there's something a little bit interesting.
The next one, which is I think the one you're referring to is African women's acting.
African women's acting is at City Hall. It is a festival, AWA Niagara Festival 2025. Sherry Hawkins posted this on Facebook. I saw it. What it is calling all vendors. This is the thing that I got here is calling all vendors. Join us at the 2025 AWA Niagara Festival, a vibrant celebration of African women in film, music, and art. Seems to be pretty interesting. And this is happening on 4310 Queen Street, Niagara Falls, Niagara City Hall, between August 16th and 27th from 1 to 10 p.m. Sounds pretty interesting.
I presume this is outside, not inside, but
I don't know. Probably outside because they have vendors, and then of course they're not going to put the vendors inside.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I'm saying that's probably outside. Good. Yeah, excellent. Okay, and basically this is a celebration of culture, creativity, and connection and inviting artisans, small businesses, and community organizations to be a part of the event that brings together diverse communities and amplifies Black voices and culture. There you go.
Yeah, it'd be part of the platforming, spotlighting Africa heritage and Africa diaspora. But we have to remember too that August 1st is Emancipation Day, isn't it? Isn't it Emancipation Day where the British Empire made slavery illegal in 1834?
Is it?
Like
I knew that obviously. I knew the law happened. I didn't know it was that was a specific day to celebrate it.
Yeah, Africa, people of African descent, well, basically have used that as a holiday. As a matter of fact, it was a big deal in St. Catharines. Now, what's kind of displaced that is the American versions, like Juneteenth.
You're right. It is August the 1st. It is August the 1st.
Yeah,
to commemorate the ending of slavery. Yeah.
Now, things like Juneteenth, and people key up on the American one because that was a big deal. But here in Canada, we were 30 years ahead of them with making slavery illegal, and we had a very strong push against slavery in Canada from the time right after the American Revolution and on, because it was. Many of the loyalists were sort of anti-slavery, and those loyalists that did come into Canada that had slaves were not allowed to keep them for very long, and so there was a huge push against slavery during this time, and that is why blacks under British rule at the time are more likely to celebrate Emancipation Day.
Yeah,
August 1st.
Yeah. Okay, that's fine. And this one is on August 16th. Okay.
Yeah, but there is one point there where it's August 1st. That's after August 1st. Okay, yeah. So that's happening. There's not much description there. I wish there was a little bit better one, but anyway, this is a vendor call, and it's really not a call for people to come on out and participate.
But vendor calls always make people aware and maybe put that in their calendar.
Yeah. Anyway, so it looks like something pretty interesting, and anything. I think everybody should be a little bit of a Renaissance person and try to learn as much as they can. And this is an easy opportunity to learn a few things about the African diaspora that was enslaved, and now what happened during that time.
Yep. Okay. Anything else? I haven't got any comments on that.
Right, no, I just wanted to get the announcement out there for Sherry Hawkins.
Yep. Despite a 2.7% decrease since last June, the average rents remain 4.1% higher than they were 2 years ago.
Yes. What do you make of that?
Well, basically, this is actually something. I had this discussion one time with Maria Recruit about how would rental prices go down, and she was of the opinion that they would not go down dramatically. The fact that they went up, they pretty well doubled and tripled in some areas. She was saying they wouldn't go down dramatically. They might go down 5 or 10%, but not more than that. I felt they might well go down about 25 to 30%. All right.
That's a huge amount. How did you figure they were going that far?
Because of the fact that, you see, for many people here in Niagara, and my logic was for many people here in Niagara, the ability to pay rents, the story is we're getting it every day. Is I can't. I'm being asked to move out by my landlord. I can't afford to move. Can you help me? Right, I need to stay. And what's happening is they're paying $1,000 a month, and if they were to rent the same place now, it would probably be $2,500 a month, and they don't have the salary to be able to pay, or wages to pay $2,500 a month.
Yeah. So
we've got properties here in Niagara that where Niagarans can't afford them.
Too bad. Let them eat cake.
Yeah, I know. That's
all right.
That was my view about why the market might go down 25 to 30%.
Well, it won't go down 25 or 30% unless there's a cataclysmic economic fail, like the Great Depression or something of that kind.
Yeah.
Right now, the demand was very high. So basically, basic capitalism is in play. When the demand is high, right? When there's a high demand, you can charge more for it. When demand decreases, you charge less for it. That's just it. If hotels in Niagara, when there's a huge demand, they can ask top dollar. But if they find that there's less tourists coming down, they'll reduce their prices. The Hilarious House of Frankenstein or whatever it is down there on the Wax Museum, if they're not getting people to come in to watch them, they'll reduce the prices. So people will come in and do it. That's just the supply and demand of capitalism. Unfortunately for us, because of increased population, not enough housing, and people just moving from Toronto into the area, basically Toronto, but other parts into the area, put us the demand on housing, which means landlords can push up the rates.
Yeah.
This is problematic. I don't know what you're going to do. Every landlord has the right to try to make as much money off of their business, which is renting, as they can. Now, reasonable landlords might not, but I mean, I'm not talking about people pushing people out of their units for renovations or anything like that. I'm talking about you own a building and you can increase the rate of rent by certain rules every year. And you're going to do that if the demand is high because you want to maximize your profits. The problem is the people here in Niagara Falls, wages and standard of living hasn't gone up with the cost of housing.
Yeah.
So what do you do? Now, this is a bit of good news here when you have a drop of drop in prices for a rental unit. So that's a little bit of good news. It's telling you that the demand is slowing down, and so you have a 2.7% decrease, but it's still the average rents remain 4.1% higher than 2 years ago. When your wages are not going up nearly that fast, like a 4.1 increase, it's killer. And so Niagara it says here also rental aggregate website, rentals.ca, published its June report outlining a divide between primary markets seeing a decline in rents and secondary rental markets like Niagara attracting people from larger cities seeking lower costs.
And exactly. So what is happening here is we are getting some people who are coming here from Hamilton and Hamilton, Burlington, Mississauga, and Toronto, who are electing to actually pay extra in gas to get up and down to work, but have a cheaper place to live.
Well, a lot of people move down here because they can work from home. Like there's a guy in my Toastmasters club who lived in Mississauga, but he moved his family down to Port Colborne. Very nice place to live, nice whatever. He only has to go to work once a week.
Yeah.
because he works from home for the rest of the time.
Yeah. So so he's once a week when he drives into Toronto or wherever, Toronto, Mississauga, wherever he works. He can start at 6 o'clock in the morning and be there bright and early, and and enjoy his day, right?
I don't know what he does, but anyway, he has to go into work in Mississauga only once a week, so that makes it possible for him to live in Port Colborne.
Yeah.
And which is quite far away. And we find that here in Niagara too, a lot of that happened. A lot of people came down this way who were, particularly during COVID, when they're working from their home anyway.
Yeah.
So the commute. So although a lot of people commute that distance, they don't do it every day. Plus, there's the train and everything else. There's all kinds of alternatives. They don't have to drive. So there you have it. I don't think there's going to be a drastic drop in prices and rent. I wish there was for those people who could use it, but I don't see things going up too much anymore because the demands are being reduced. We have less students now requiring housing, for one thing. We reported here that there are 10,000 jobs lost in the post-secondary education institutes here in Ontario. That means there's a drop in students, which means there's a drop in demands for housing. So right there, even that little segment has already given us a bit of relief from demands for housing. So anyway, now you think they're going to have that 30% drop in housing? We'll have to expand on that, Peter.
Yeah. I don't know. I was thinking because that was what the Niagara market was. But at the time when I was making that statement, I wasn't thinking about the fact that there were new people coming in from Toronto and the like.
Well, the only time I remember there was a big drop in real estate was in the late 80s, early 90s, when we went into a zone there. People who had their houses up for sale at the time for like $140,000 held on. They were selling for $100,000, like huge losses. I know one couple that had to sell their house for $14,000 less than they bought it for.
Yeah.
So there was a real crush in real estate prices. The only one I've really experienced of that huge amount was very surprising to me. It was during that early 90s then. But we had a recession coming on. We had very high interest rates and everything qualified to push the real estate prices down. But that is no longer the case. And but it might level off. It might level off right now because anybody that from Toronto has moved down there has probably done it. Most of the people who wanted to do that and could do that have probably already done it.
Yeah. Okay, moving on. Trump's MAGA base is in crisis over the Epstein files.
Now, the only reason I'm not really very interested in the Epstein thing, except that I'm kind of amused how it's taken MAGA and flipped them upside down.
Yeah, the whole point about this is that I thought that the Epstein files were dead and buried. Like they came up about 10 years ago, and they had mild interest about 10 years ago, and were kind of mainly dead and buried since then, right? But clearly not.
If you look into it, it actually is kind of very interesting. It's just not about a pervert and his pervert girlfriend who entices a lot of young girls into having sex or doing sexual things with them. That was a real disease Epstein seems to have had. He was a pedophile. He liked young girls, and I don't know. It's pretty gross, the whole thing. But the thing that's interesting about it is that he may have been a Mossad operative because Ghislaine Maxwell father was a Mossad operator, and so highly regarded that he actually had a state funeral in Israel. So there's that aspect of the kind of information that Epstein may have been collecting on the people he invited to his places in New York or his island, and that he may have been collecting information for Mossad, and maybe that's what kept this whole thing going, this whole pervert palace thing going. But remember too that Jeffrey Epstein invited everybody under the sun to his place. So he had Dalai Lama there. He had Stephen Hawking's there. So he'd have very interesting people.
He had Bill Clinton there as well. But there's no
Bill's a perv. Bill's a perv. That's, that's.
But there was never an allegation that Bill Clinton slept with anybody. The information that was about him was that Clinton visited there, and that's it, right?
Well, Bill's a well-known perv.
We know that. But again, Clinton was was never alleged to have done anything wrong.
No, but that's the whole point. This list, or this client list, and all the details are what wealthy, influential people who went there are afraid of.
Yeah.
Now, a guy like Stephen Hawking, if he's still alive, or the Dalai Lama, obviously don't have much to worry about because they didn't go for the sexual perversion thing. They went there probably to network with other people. Some of them needed money. Bill Gates claims he went there so he could get some money off of Epstein to help with the
foundation.
Yeah. So just on the surface, even if it wasn't a perv palace down in on his island, you could see that the who's who were hanging out with Jeffrey Epstein because he was a rich guy. He was very friendly with all these things. He had a friend network, which included Donald Trump.
Yeah.
So the thing that's most interesting here, though, is how MAGA is flipped upside down and inside out. So when they start digging into this, I don't think they're going to find a whole lot on.
I don't think there's any allegations that Donald Trump did anything wrong.
No, I don't think so either. But it's not Donald Trump they're trying to hang. It was the Clintons and the Democrats. The reason why MAGA ran with this so feverishly for the last few years is because they were convinced that a whole bunch of Democrats were involved in sexual deviance, and they wanted the skinny on them so that they could really have a heyday in the press. When they finally got their chance to open up the files, Trump throws cold water on it and says, "No, don't do it, because there's nothing here to see." That's upset his base. Now, this MAGA is very obedient, and they fall in line, but on everything that Trump says, anything he says, they believe, they bow down. Yes, dear leader. But in this particular case, it's been harder for them to get into line because they've held on to this. Their whole image was that they're going to expose tons and tons of Democrats. In the words of one of these guys, "I heard something about Bill Clinton in a plane and Epstein's plane, and we want that all out there, blah, blah, blah." Then when Trump gets in power and he looks at the files, he says, "Nothing to see here." He might be right. He might be exactly right. There might not be a whole lot of defamation.
Here's the way I look at it. Jeffrey Epstein had, on his island, he had two types of people coming. The rich and famous who were coming for networking events, just normal, everyday kind of events that he made money out of somehow. And you've got the perverts who are coming for other, things. And maybe those two groups did intermingle to some extent, but not in all cases.
Well, there's the thing that if it was investigated at all, I'd like to know what the CIA and Mossad had to do with it. And
that's an interesting twist, yeah.
Yeah, that might have been a front for them to kind of, because these people are the richest and most powerful people that come to see Jeffrey Epstein, not and some of the most famous. Some might not be that wealthy. So that's more interesting to me what they were doing, why they were poking their heads in there. They're trying to what kind of money or what they found out that could be of use to them. But I don't think they're going to find much on Trump. But the whole idea is that MAGA hoped that would find all kinds of stuff on Democrats, and we have the rare situation where the Democrats are pushing for the opening of files, and the MAGA faithful has done a 180 and said, "Oh no, we don't want those files open." No Republican voted to have those files open in the Congress. It was Democrats versus Republicans right down to the last number. Now this whole thing has been a huge distraction from government, and so I wish to just get it over with, because I am not really very interested in this at all, except that I want to make sure, if I was an American, I would want to make sure that proper justice is being done to the victims. Make sure that the victims of this were taken care of and compensated for. Because as it was described, these crimes, being a victim of this kind of pedophile and the kind of sexual things that they were forced to do, lives with them forever. It never goes away. As we found out with our friend Sully, who was victimized, it never goes away. It's always it's always a hurtful, traumatic.
Well, Epstein killed himself, and coincidentally, the girl that Prince Andrew paid off also killed herself, right? And this is according to Mike Cushman. And ignoring where Epstein got his money makes them all just as guilty as the perverts.
Yeah. So
there's
money. There's money.
Right.
Yeah. Where did that money come from? And he did have a huge network of very notable friends. But you know what? I think a lot of them kind of looked the other way with his what he was doing with young women. I think they kind of knew. Even Trump said that, Jeffrey loves beautiful women just like I do, but he likes them on the young side, something of that kind. Which I don't know. It's kind of ugly. Should we open that can of worms? Okay, open up and get it over with. Satisfy the MAGA base. And they'll never be satisfied, though, because with conspiracies, there's never an end. Any answer you give them, if it's not the answer they want, they'll look elsewhere.
Okay, so let's quickly go over what are the Druze, and why is Israel claiming to protect them?
The Druze are a very interesting religion.
Yeah,
Druze.
They are Islamic.
Well, they were born from Islam, but they are not Islamic. They do not refer to themselves as Islam. They are a separate offshoot. They're not a sect anymore. They went beyond being a sect. They are now their own particular religion with their own particular ideas. Druze started out. There's the Sunni Shia divide, right?
Yeah, they're Shiite. They're Shiite Muslims. Yes.
Well, no, they're not. They're born from that.
Born from sorry, I misspoke. Born from Shiite Muslims.
It's like kind of calling Christianity a sect of Judaism. It's not. It's born out of Judaism. Jesus was a Jew, but Christianity is not Judaism. There's a relationship there, but they're separate religions. And the same thing with the Druze. So they were Shia. They're Shia Muslims. A sect of Shia Muslims is Ismaili, and this began as a sect of Ismaili. So Shia to Ismaili to
Ismaili is
and then thereafter became a completely different religion, like Christianity moved away from Judaism. It's same thing. They have completely different rules and regulations. They have
well, in some respects, I suppose one could make the equivalence of something like the Mormons, loosely related to Christianity, but not seen as necessarily Christian anymore.
that would be probably a pretty good thing. They are Christian though, but they follow a different path. But there were, I would say it was even more so, because I think it was around 1000 AD that the Shia sect of Ismaili, the Druze sect of that Ismaili, they moved out of Egypt and into the Middle East and became a completely unique religion with a lot of attachments to Islam and Christianity and other faiths, because they also took inspiration from the Christian faith. So they became completely different. They have reincarnation aspects. They are not a proselytizing religion, which Islam is and Christianity is. They are a group. They don't go out and proselytize. They don't go look for new members, as does Islam and as does Christianity. And off and on, Judaism has in its history too. So they're very unique. They're a unique religion. They are a unique religion and group. And they live in Israel and they live in southern Syria. And there's only about 1 million of them altogether.
And they live in the Golan Heights, amongst other things. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
And they're not, for the most part, they're not Israeli citizens, but they don't fight the Israelis. Sometimes they do join the Israelis in their military actions. Sometimes some of them join the military forces. So this is a rare incident where the Israelis tolerate a different religious group within their borders.
Yeah.
And
they've been at odds. They were at odds with former President Bashar al-Assad for quite some time.
Syria.
In Syria, from Syria, and have not really been, have kind of been ostracized in Syria. Although Syria is probably their more natural homeland.
It's hard to say because the borders are all artificial. Now, the Druze live in Lebanon, Syria, Israel, and a few other places in the Middle East. Yeah. The largest number of them live in southern Syria on a thing called Druze Mountain, believe it or not. And they have, back in 2012, were able to expel Assad's forces from their area, but they did not support other groups that were fighting Assad. Once Assad's people were out of their area, they defended that area, and they didn't bother joining with other forces that were against Assad. They just kept to themselves. And that's typically what Druze seem to do. Unfortunately, in this particular case, the Druze have been attacked by Sunni Bedouins, like Sunni Muslim Bedouins. Sunnis make up 75% or about 70% of the population of Syria. So Bedouins will be like the Arabs who move around from place to place. They attack the Druze, and the Druze and the Bedouins are attacking one another. They're trying to make money by kidnapping people and all that. So it's pretty much a crime thing going on. So the Druze are trying to protect their areas. The fighting got on. And what happened was the government forces, such as they are, started to head down from Damascus to try to stop this fighting, because they're having a hard enough time controlling Syria as it is, because we have a whole lot of ethnic mixes. We have a whole lot of religious and cultural and stuff like that. We have Islamists. We have secularists, all kinds of things. They're all fighting one another.
Yeah. And there's that whole southern zone of Syria that was actually, had has multiple people looking out, looking to control it is what I was trying to say.
Well, what happened here is this sectarial violence started happening between the Bedouins and the Druze. So the government wants to come down and fix it, but the Druze don't want that to happen, because what happened when the government went to fix the sectarian violence among the Alawites in the northwest part of the country, hundreds of Alawites were murdered, and Alawites were the minority that mostly bolstered Assad privacy. So the Druze see them coming, and they don't trust it. So the Israelis jump into gear, and they come in and they bomb the crap out of the Syrian armed forces.
And that mountain that you're talking about, the Druze mountain that you're talking about, is basically about 100 kilometers east of the Golan Heights area.
Yes, and south of Damascus.
Yeah.
The Golan Heights is the place where there's a lot of Druze as well.
Yeah, it's about 150 kilometers south of Damascus, maybe more. And it's in that southern area of Syria that was not really affected by. It wasn't the area that places like ISIS wanted.
Oh, they wanted it, but the Druze fought them. Look, ISIS wants everything.
ISIS wants everything, but it wasn't ISIS.
That's a problem here, because it's ISIS, Al-Nusra Front. It's the Druze, the Sunnis, and the Shias, and the Alawites. You see the problem here. You have a lot of sectors and sectors among sectors that are fighting. And we're not even including the Kurds in this one.
Yeah.
So when the Syrian army went to quell the secular violence the sectarian violence that was happening in the northwest part of the country, they said they were equal to everyone, but they weren't. They killed a lot of Alawites. So the Druze see that, and they see the Syrian army coming to get in between them and the Druze and the Bedouins. So the Israelis get into their planes and bomb the crap out of the Syrian government forces. That was to slow them down and protect the Druze. They have an interest in protecting the Druze because the Druze are connected with them in the Golan Heights, and they also want to drive a wedge between the Druze and the government of Syria. Basically, what they want to do is keep Syria as a non-functional country with different factions fighting one another. And they feel that they have a better chance of being allies with the Druze than anyone else there. And that's why they protected them.
Yeah, and of course, since this whole conflict began, the Israelis have taken about 20 to 30 kilometers additional land in the Golan Heights area.
Yeah, this is going to be an ongoing problem with the Syrian government, who wants them wants their presence out of Syria.
Yeah.
Right now, the leader of Syria, al-Sharia, his name is, he's going to have a whole lot of trouble, because he is a former extremist Islamist who has kind of seen the better ways, and he's still an Islamist, but a moderate Islamist, and he wants to bring the country together, and he wants to bring it together in the old Islamic way, where they have tolerance for other religions and other faiths. That was one of the hallmarks of Islamic Islamic societies when the Arabs when they had the huge empire, Islamic empires, they were very tolerant of other faiths if they happened to be of Abrahamic faiths.
Yeah.
So they were tolerated. So what he wants to do is the same thing. I'm going to be an Islamic, but I'm going to be one that is very tolerant of other religions, and we want everybody to hold hands and love one another and build a country. but of course
Well,
nobody believes
that
him.
would mean that he would be supporting the Druze.
Well, he said he would, but the
And
problem is, as I just said, way he said this, that everybody's going to be treated equally, and the government's going to enforce the rules equally. But when there was an outbreak of violence among the Alawites, when the government forces went there, they took it out on the Alawites because they were the minority that backed up Assad. So they were supposed to treat them equally, and they did not. They focused their vengeance on the Alawites, and that's what the Druze were worried about in the south. If the Syrian army is going to come, who are they going to back? They're going to back the Sunni Bedouins because they're Muslim and we're not.
Yeah.
You see how complicated it is.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, Israel doesn't like any kind of conflict that is happening close to its borders like this.
Yeah, and it is in its interest is to keep Syria as a non-functioning state, like Iraq. Iraq became a non-functioning state. It'll never be the country where it was under.
I wouldn't say never.
Under Saddam Hussein, it was a military power, and it was even though under a dictator, it was one country. Now it's basically
I wouldn't say never, Dave.
Three countries fighting one another.
Yeah,
that's what happened. That's what happened in Libya. That's what the West Israel wanted to happen in Libya, where it's become factional, so it can never unite together. And what's happened in Syria used to be a huge power in the Middle East, had an enormous army. And now it's just pieces here and there.
But again, Dave, in all of this, you mentioned the word never so many times. Don't say never in these situations.
Well, it's going to be a very long time before Syria is united again, if ever. It's going to be a very, very long time if Iraq is united, if ever. The whole idea of, and of course, the plan is to have this happen to Iran too, have it broken up into various fighting factions so that it never gains a united power like it has right now. That, according to people like Jeffrey Sachs and stuff like that, that was the plan among the CIA and Israel and their other allies. All right.
We're gonna have to call quits to this anyway.
Okay. Without further ado, everyone, I bid you adieu. Don't forget Gaza. It's becoming terrible there every day. It's getting worse and worse. Murders there are, and let me bring you the sectarian violence, the settler violence against Palestinians on the West Bank is getting worse and worse and worse. So bad that the Israeli army is almost has to do something against it. They're killing American Palestinians in the West Bank that come to visit their relatives. And it's getting worse all the time. There's more land grabs. They're destroying things. They're killing Palestinians. And the Israeli army, of course, is looking the other way. But it's so bad when you get the Israel ambassador from the United States, who is complete and total supporter of Israel. Even he is shocked and asked for. Anyway, I don't see much getting done, but I just thought I'd bring that up. And without further ado, I bid you adieu.
All right. Bye.